before the highways turned digital, before the roar of engines was drowned by the hum of machines, America's destiny was carved in chrome and diesel. Two giants rose from the forge: Mack, the bulldog of brute endurance, and Peterbilt, the crowned prince of the open road. They were more than manufacturers. They were symbols of pride, rebellion, sweat, and steel. But beneath the shine of their emblems, a war simmered, of identity, of survival, of what it truly meant to rule the road. Through fuel crises and corporate takeovers, through glory and betrayal, each fought not only the other, but the changing world itself. This is not just the story of trucks, it's the story of titans, and the price of staying mighty in a world that never stops moving. Iron and ambition, the birth of two titans. In the early 20th century, as America's cities swelled and its industries roared to life, a new frontier opened across the nation's endless roads. Railroads had long been the veins of commerce, but a new machine, the truck, was rising to claim the arteries. In this world of grease, grit, and ambition, two names would soon stand at opposite ends of the same dream: Mack and Peterbilt. Each was born from a different creed, one forged in brute industrial might, the other in precision and pride. But both shared the same hunger: to rule the open road and haul America's destiny behind them. Mack Trucks began its story in 1900, when brothers John, Augustus, and William Mack turned a small Brooklyn carriage works into a machine shop that would define American toughness. Their vision was clear: build trucks that could outlast roads, drivers, and time itself. When their first vehicle rolled out, a heavy-duty wagon built for a brutal world, it did more than carry cargo. It carried a promise that Mack would never surrender to weakness. By 1910, their trucks were hauling goods through terrain that broke lesser machines, earning a reputation among drivers as indestructible beasts. The U.S. Army would later call them Bulldogs for their unrelenting endurance during World War I, a name that became both brand and identity. While Mack's empire rose from industrial sweat, Peterbilt emerged decades later from entrepreneurial ambition. In 1939, T.A. Peterman, a logging magnate from Oregon, faced a crisis that would define him. His timber operations were strangled by inefficiency, aging equipment, slow deliveries, and costly downtime. Instead of surrendering, Peterman decided to build his own trucks, designed for power, speed, and reliability. Using parts from defunct Fageal Motors, he birthed the first Peterbilt, a sleek, purpose-built machine tailored for America's booming freight industry. Where Mack was brawn and bulldog grit, Peterbilt was precision, a reflection of a businessman who saw trucking not just as transport, but as an art of engineering and efficiency. The two companies grew in separate worlds, yet their destinies were set on a collision course. Mack, entrenched in the East, dominated heavy hauling, construction, and military logistics. Peterbilt, born in the West, catered to long-haul operators and owner-operators who saw their rigs as extensions of pride and livelihood. Their philosophies couldn't have been more different. Mack trucks were tools of war and work, while Peterbilts were symbols of craftsmanship and identity. Yet both targeted the same prize: control of America's roads and the loyalty of the men who drove them. The Great Depression tested both visions. Mack survived by supplying essential industries and government projects, doubling down on its heavy-duty dominance. Peterbilt, still young, faced financial peril. T.A. Peterman's sudden death in 1944 nearly ended the company before it matured. Yet fate intervened when Packer, a rising industrial powerhouse, acquired Peterbilt in 1958. Injecting capital and strategy that would turn it into a force capable of challenging even Mack's empire. From that moment, the battle lines were drawn, not just between companies but between ideologies: utility versus luxury, fleet toughness versus driver pride. World War II transformed the trucking industry into a national necessity. Mack became a cornerstone of the war effort, producing thousands of trucks that hauled troops, fuel, and weapons across continents. The brand's image hardened into legend. Peterbilt, meanwhile, focused on the domestic front, refining its designs for post-war expansion. When peace returned and America began paving highways coast to coast, Both brands saw a new battlefield emerging, one where image, performance, and endurance would decide supremacy. By the 1950s, the seeds of rivalry had taken root. Truck stops buzzed with debates over which badge ruled the road. Mack's ironclad frames and brute torque earned respect from haulers of heavy loads, but Peterbilt's chrome and craftsmanship captured the hearts of independent drivers who saw their rigs as rolling monuments. For every driver who swore by the Bulldog, another pledged allegiance to the red oval. What neither company realized was that this rivalry would become far more than a competition for market share. It would evolve into a decades-long war, fought not only in factories and showrooms, but in boardrooms, courts, and even backroom deals. For every innovation, there would be a counterpunch. For every triumph, a scandal waiting in the wings. The story of Mack and Peterbilt was no longer about building trucks. It was about building empires. And empires, as history would prove, are forged in ambition and undone by the very pride that fuels them. Roads of opportunity, post-war expansion and pride. When the guns of World War II fell silent, America awoke to a new frontier, one not of battlefields and borders, but of highways and horizons. The nation's factories shifted from tanks to tools, from munitions to machines of progress. And in this age of reconstruction, Mack and Peterbilt found themselves standing at the edge of boundless opportunity. The war had made them indispensable. Peace would test their ability to transform necessity into dominance. For Mack, the post-war years promised vindication. Its trucks had hauled armies to victory, forged reputations on the front lines, and earned unshakable respect among returning soldiers who had seen the Bulldog endure where others broke. As America rebuilt, Mack's heavy-duty fleets became the backbone of construction projects that defined the era. Dams, highways, and city skylines all rose under the watch of its roaring engines. Its dealers flooded the East Coast with advertising that framed Mack not just as a machine, but as a symbol of American strength. Born for war, built for work, the slogan read, and for many, it was gospel. Yet pride carried a hidden cost. Mack's leadership, emboldened by wartime prestige, believed its dominance unshakable. Executives poured resources into industrial contracts and fleet sales, confident that loyalty alone would secure the future. What they underestimated was the changing face of trucking. Across the West and South, independent owner-operators, the cowboys of the open road, were growing in number. They didn't want just brute power. They wanted identity, comfort, and style. And waiting for them, chrome gleaming in the sun, was Peterbilt. Peterbilt entered the post-war boom with a youthful hunger. Under new ownership from Packcar, the company pursued a different philosophy. Treat the driver as the hero, not the fleet as the customer. While Mack focused on municipal contracts and industrial hauling, Peterbilt crafted rigs that reflected pride of ownership. Sleek hoods, polished exteriors, and cabins designed for long-haul comfort. Their sales pitch wasn't about surviving the road. It was about conquering it in style. Truckers began calling Peterbilts the Cadillacs of the highway, a phrase that spread like wildfire across truck stops and rest stations. The timing could not have been better. President Eisenhower's interstate highway system, launched in the mid-1950s, promised 40,000 miles of new asphalt arteries connecting every corner of the nation. Freight demand soared. Supermarkets, factories, and cities depended on long-haul deliveries that stretched across states and time zones. Where Mack's muscle dominated local construction and short-haul routes, Peterbilt's sleek long-haulers claimed the open road. Every mile paved became a new battleground in a silent war for dominance. But success brought friction. Mack's boardrooms grew uneasy as market analysts warned that the independent driver segment, once dismissed as fringe, was becoming the soul of American trucking culture. Meanwhile, Peterbilt's meteoric rise came at a cost. Its production struggled to meet demand, and whispers of quality control lapses began to circulate. Rivals accused Packcar of cornering supply chains and leveraging unfair pricing tactics, allegations that would later surface in industry investigations. beyond the numbers, something deeper was changing. Trucking wasn't just commerce anymore, it was identity. Magazines and trucker radio shows glorified life on the highway, turning rigs into extensions of the men behind the wheel. Mack's machines were respected, even feared, but Peterbilts were loved. In parking lots from Texas to Ohio, gleaming red ovals drew crowds, and drivers swapped tales of cross-country hauls that felt like pilgrimages. By the late 1950s, the divide was clear. Mack had the fleets, the contracts, the muscle. Peterbilt had the culture, the mystique, the loyalty of the lone driver. Yet, both carried vulnerabilities beneath their chrome and steel. Mack's leadership, slow to adapt to shifting consumer values, found itself locked in bureaucratic inertia. Peterbilt's rapid growth strained its resources and exposed cracks in its supply chain. The post-war boom had given both companies a golden road, but the same highways that promised fortune also carried the seeds of rivalry. Each brand's strength would soon become its weakness. Mack's stubborn devotion to durability risked alienating a generation seeking style, while Peterbilt's pursuit of prestige threatened to overextend its fragile infrastructure. As the 1960s dawned, the trucking industry was entering a new era of expansion and complexity. Regulations tightened, fuel efficiency grew critical, and competition intensified. But for now, Mack and Peterbilt roared across America's highways like twin kings of the road, each blind to the battles waiting beyond the horizon, where pride would meet pressure and loyalty would be tested by profit. The roads of opportunity had been laid. The war for America's long haul had only just begun. Chrome, steel, and identity, building the brand wars. By the early 1960s, the American highway had become a battlefield not of bullets, but of image and pride. Mack and Peterbilt, two titans forged from different philosophies, now fought not only for dominance of the road, but for the allegiance of those who lived upon it. Trucks no longer served as mere machines. They were banners of identity, vessels of myth, reflections of the men who gripped their wheels. For Mack, the message was unmistakable: strength, endurance, and unbreakable resolve. Its Bulldog emblem, cast in chrome and mounted proudly atop steel hoods, became a symbol of grit that resonated with industries built on sweat and dust. Cities, construction crews, and corporate fleets trusted its rugged power. The phrase, "built like a Mack truck," echoed across billboards and workyards, turning its name into a living metaphor for toughness itself. Yet, beneath that iron reputation lay a growing unease. Mack's devotion to brute strength risked alienating a new breed of trucker who craved more than might. They wanted meaning, image, and individuality. Peterbilt, in contrast, pursued elegance without surrendering strength. Its red oval badge, gleaming beneath polished chrome, spoke of freedom, pride, and personal glory. Where Mack stood for industry, Peterbilt embodied the owner-operator, the solitary king of the open highway who saw his rig not as a tool, but as a throne. Each Peterbilt that rolled from the factory was a declaration: sleek lines, shining stacks, and interiors crafted with care. To its drivers, it wasn't just transportation, it was identity made metal. Thus emerged a cultural divide. Mack was the trusted workhorse of cities and corporations, a soldier of necessity. Peterbilt became the favored steed of wanderers and dreamers, men who measured worth in miles and mirrors. Across rest stops and diners, debates flared, loyalists of each brand defending not only machines but worldviews. By the late 1960s, marketing sharpened the rivalry into myth. Mack's advertisements celebrated power and patriotism, portraying trucks as unyielding guardians of progress. Peterbilt's campaigns, meanwhile, bathed in sunlight and freedom, painting its rigs as extensions of the driver's soul, symbols of independence roaring down endless asphalt. Magazines compared them side by side, fueling a contest that spilled from showrooms into popular culture. Yet, beneath the chrome and slogans, quiet struggles brewed. Mack's engineers faced pressure to evolve, to adapt their heavy-duty frames for long-haul elegance. Peterbilt's designers fought PACCAR's cost demands while trying to preserve craftsmanship and pride. Each decision risked identity. Modernization could mean dilution, and style could sacrifice substance. The 1970s ignited the rivalry's cultural climax. Trucker songs filled radios, Hollywood turned rigs into legends, and the trucker became an American folk hero. Rebellious, free, defiant. Peterbilt thrived in this spotlight. Its trucks starred in films, gleamed in posters, and symbolized the untamed spirit of the highway. Mack, though still revered, struggled to capture the same romantic fire. Its image, unyielding and industrial, felt bound to the past. Refusing surrender, Mack doubled down on heritage. Its factories produced stronger transmissions, more efficient engines, and new models forged for punishment. Advertisements declared loyalty to the working man, to duty over glory. But while Mack's machines conquered terrain, Peterbilt conquered hearts. In truck stops lit by neon and diesel fumes, it was Peterbilt that turned heads. Peterbilt that embodied the dream. By decade's end, the brand war had reshaped the industry. To drive a Mack was to declare loyalty to labor, discipline, and power. To drive a Peterbilt was to embrace style, self-reliance, and the open road. These weren't just trucks, they were tribes. But pride bore consequences. Peterbilt's obsession with image strained budgets and risked quality lapses. Mack's steadfast focus on utility left it vulnerable to markets demanding comfort and customization. Both brands had built empires of steel and story, but the coming years would test whether myth could withstand economics. The war of identity had begun as marketing, but soon survival itself would hang in the balance. For on the horizon loomed oil crises, deregulation, and foreign competition that cared little for pride or paint. The next battles would not be fought in ad campaigns, but in boardrooms and factories where every decision would decide who remained king of America's long haul. Fuel, fury, and financial storms. By the mid-1970s, the hum of America's highways was broken by a sound far more ominous than roaring engines or shifting gears. The echo of crisis. As oil prices soared and fuel lines stretched for miles, the trucking industry found itself gasping for breath. The romance of the open road gave way to the cold arithmetic of survival. Every gallon burned became a burden, every mile driven a gamble. And for Mack and Peterbilt, the storm was no longer a contest of pride. It was a fight for existence against forces neither could command. The oil crisis of 1973 struck like a hammer. The OPEC embargo sent diesel costs skyrocketing, and fleets that once boasted convoys of chrome now stood idle in silent yards. Freight routes shrank, contracts dried up, and independent truckers, the loyal lifeblood of Peterbilt, watched their profits vanish in exhaust fumes. Across truck stops, frustration simmered. CB radios crackled with anger. Drivers cursed politicians, oil giants, and manufacturers alike. And in the boardrooms of Mack and Peterbilt, fear turned to fury as both scrambled to adapt. For Mack, the challenge was brutal yet familiar. Known for rugged endurance, it leaned on that strength like armor. Fleet operators still trusted the brand's durability, but even the toughest machine couldn't conquer soaring costs. Engineers raced to refine engines, squeezing out efficiency mile by mile. Marketing shifted to focus on pragmatism, savings, reliability, and promises of outlasting the crisis. But beneath the steady image, cracks began to show. Labor unrest brewed, supply chains strained, and rumors of financial stress haunted Allentown's corridors. Peterbilt, meanwhile, faced a deeper identity struggle. Its sleek, chrome-draped machines, built for pride and individuality, were suddenly symbols of excess. Owner-operators who once polished their rigs with pride now questioned every expense. PACCAR's executives demanded efficiency, urging designs that prioritized economy over extravagance. Yet, stripping away the luxury risked erasing the very soul of the Peterbilt name. Engineers were forced into impossible compromises to build beauty that could sip fuel like a miser. Then came deregulation, the second and perhaps deadlier blow. The Motor Carrier Act of 1980 dismantled decades of stability, opening the freight market to chaos. Rates plummeted. Competition soared, and independent truckers, Peterbilt's devoted core, were left fighting for survival. repossessed rigs lined dealer lots, and bankruptcies spread across the highways. The red oval still gleamed, but behind its shine lay debt, despair, and broken dreams. Mack, anchored to corporate fleets and government projects, weathered the shift slightly better but not unscathed. Orders slowed, plants idled, and whispers of layoffs and restructuring spread. Tensions erupted into strikes as workers fought to protect jobs and identity. The Bulldog still bared its teeth, yet even its bite could not pierce an economy unraveling under pressure. The 1980s brought a fragile return to motion. As fuel prices eased and freight revived, both brands clawed for relevance. Mack poured resources into turbocharged engines and aerodynamic cabs, preaching efficiency and strength. Peterbilt doubled down on customization, offering individuality wrapped in new technology. But victories were fleeting. Each innovation carried debt, each recovery shadowed by uncertainty. For drivers, the era carried a cruel irony. The open road still stretched wide, but freedom came with a cost. The golden myth of the independent trucker began to fade, replaced by talk of taxes, tolls, and tightening margins. Convoys, once symbols of rebellion, became processions of obligation. The songs of the highway turned elegies for a world slipping into memory. Through it all, Mack and Peterbilt's rivalry evolved. Chrome and grit mattered less. Endurance became everything. The battlefield had shifted from image to survival. Both companies had weathered wars, recessions, and shifting markets, yet never before had their fates been bound so tightly to global forces: oil, politics, and economic upheaval. The fuel crisis stripped away illusion. Beneath slogans and steel lay a truth neither could ignore. Trucking was not merely horsepower or pride, but resilience, the will to endure storms no engine could outrun. As the decade closed, Mack and Peterbilt bore the scars of a war with no victors, only survivors limping down uncertain roads, haunted by the ghosts of glory, swallowed by fuel, fury, and financial ruin. The corporate tug-of-war, mergers, missteps, and power plays. By the dawn of the 1980s, America's trucking industry was no longer driven solely by horsepower or heritage. It was steered by boardrooms, balance sheets, and the invisible hands of global finance. Mack and Peterbilt, once titans of identity and engineering, now found themselves pawns in a larger game, a corporate tug-of-war, where every merger, misstep, and power play could decide their fate. For Mack Trucks, the shift was both opportunity and peril. Decades of strength had built a brand synonymous with toughness, but the oil shocks and deregulated chaos had drained its coffers. In 1979, Mack became part of Renault Véhicules Industriels, a bold union meant to infuse French capital into American grit. On paper, it was a marriage of innovation and endurance, Europe's technology meeting America's muscle. In reality, it was a clash of cultures, priorities, and visions. Renault sought efficiency, modernization, and global reach. Mack's leadership, proud and protective, feared dilution of the Bulldog's identity. Boardroom battles flared over production strategy, component sourcing, and market focus. Engineers clashed over metric standards and design philosophies. What was meant to be synergy often became struggle. Mack, once the unchallenged symbol of American grit, now faced questions of loyalty. Was it still a U.S. icon or a cog in a European machine? Meanwhile, across the continent, Peterbilt navigated a different maze. As a division of PACCAR, it shared lineage with Kenworth, its sibling and rival. The corporate hierarchy saw efficiency and consolidation, shared parts, standardized systems, unified supply chains. But Peterbilt's soul resisted. Its appeal lay in individuality, customization, and pride. Yet, as the 1980s wore on, PACCAR's cost-driven strategy began tightening the reins. Peterbilt's executives fought to protect the brand's character, but corporate oversight demanded conformity. The gleaming red oval risked becoming just another badge in a portfolio. Designers lamented the loss of creative freedom. Dealers worried that Peterbilt's mystique was fading into sameness. For owner-operators, the rigs still shone. But behind the chrome, whispers spread. Peterbilt was no longer the maverick it once was. These corporate struggles mirrored the shifting landscape of American manufacturing. Globalization was no longer a theory but a force. Foreign automakers surged. Domestic icons stumbled under the weight of competition and consolidation. Truck builders faced shrinking margins, stricter emissions laws, and demands for fuel efficiency that clashed with tradition. At Mack, Renault's influence ushered in technological advances, electronic controls, improved drivetrains, aerodynamic refinements. Yet progress came at a price. Internal tensions slowed decisions, and American dealers bristled at European oversight. Mack's once unshakable identity began to blur. By the late 1980s, though still respected, the Bulldog's bark had softened under layers of bureaucracy and conflicting priorities. At Peterbilt, PACCAR's grip tightened. Investments favored uniformity, streamlining production across brands. Innovation shifted toward the corporate center, leaving Peterbilt to defend its image with fewer tools. Though sales remained strong, insiders sensed erosion, the subtle fading of independence that had once made Peterbilt the symbol of the open road spirit. Throughout the decade, both companies faced high-stakes gambles. Mack expanded into new markets, betting on fuel-efficient engines and medium-duty trucks. Some ventures succeeded, others bled resources. Peterbilt introduced modernized cabs and aerodynamic lines to meet regulation, but purists mourned the loss of classic shapes. Each step forward carried echoes of compromise. By the 1990s, the results of these corporate tug-of-wars became impossible to ignore. Mack's ownership changed hands again, eventually landing under Volvo, another foreign giant promising synergy. Peterbilt continued under PACCAR's umbrella, its individuality tethered to corporate strategy. The battle for identity had shifted from highways to headquarters. For the men and women behind the wheel, the consequences were tangible. Trucks grew more advanced, more efficient, yet somehow less personal. The machines they once called their own now bore the fingerprints of distant boardrooms and foreign investors. The icons of American independence were now instruments of global economics. In the rearview mirror, the story was clear. Strength alone could not withstand the tides of consolidation. Mack's Bulldog endured, scarred but unbroken, loyal to an evolving world. Peterbilt's red oval still gleamed, though its freedom was now measured by corporate consent. The war for dominance had become a war for direction, and as globalization deepened, both giants would learn that survival required not just steel and skill, but submission to powers far beyond the open road. The highway turns digital. Innovation and betrayal in the modern era. By the turn of the millennium, the roar of diesel engines was joined by a new sound, the hum of processors, the whisper of data streams, and the quiet pulse of digital control. The American highway, once ruled by grease and grit, was transforming into a realm of sensors, satellites, and software. For Mack and Peterbilt, these shifting currents promised salvation or ruin. The digital age offered power beyond imagination, but beneath its glow lurked betrayal of tradition, of loyalty, of the very soul of the open road. Mack trucks, now under Volvo Group, entered the 2000s with ambition tempered by unease. The Bulldog's bark had softened, but its resolve remained. Volvo's engineers brought Scandinavian precision, telematics, advanced diagnostics, and electronic management systems. The trucks grew smarter, cleaner, more efficient. Yet with every new sensor and screen, something intangible slipped away. The mechanical bond between driver and machine, once forged in sweat and instinct, was now mediated by code. Old-school haulers grumbled that the trucks no longer felt alive. The Bulldog, they said, had traded muscle for obedience. Still, Mack leaned into progress. Its MP engine line and Guard Dog Connect promised reliability, predicting breakdowns before they happened, optimizing routes through data. Corporate leaders hailed evolution. Drivers whispered betrayal. The company, once built on independence, now answered to algorithms written far from the highways it ruled. Across the battlefield, Peterbilt charged forward beneath PACCAR's digital empire. The red oval became a beacon of innovation. Smart nav, MX engines, and integrated telematics turned rigs into rolling computers. Touchscreens replaced analog gauges. Diagnostics flowed to corporate servers. Efficiency soared. Downtime dropped. But drivers began to feel like passengers in their own machines. For owner-operators, the shift cut deep. The rigs they once customized like armor now came preloaded with corporate logic, limiting speed, tracking performance, reporting back to headquarters. Freedom, the heart of trucking's mythos, was quietly fenced in by software. Peterbilt's elegance remained, but under the chrome lay circuitry and control. Drivers who once worshipped their rigs began asking, who really owns the road now? The man behind the wheel or the machine behind the code? Progress carried fractures. Telematics turned every engine into a snitch. Automated transmissions eroded driver skill. Fleet managers used data to squeeze profit, while drivers felt stripped of autonomy. Trucking, once an art of intuition, became a science of compliance. The open road, once a symbol of rebellion, now resembled a digital leash. Meanwhile, corporate power tightened. Volvo integrated Mack deeper into its global network, standardizing parts to cut costs. Insiders whispered of lost heritage, of designs approved in Gothenburg instead of Allentown. Peterbilt, though wrapped in American pride, faced the same chains. PACCAR's centralization dictated innovation and budgets. The brands that once defined freedom now operated under global command. Yet amid betrayal, brilliance emerged. Trucks grew cleaner, quieter, more reliable than ever. Emissions met impossible standards. Fuel efficiency hit records. Autonomous prototypes hinted at a future where machines might drive themselves, a vision both thrilling and terrifying. To engineers, it was triumph. To purists, apocalypse. By the 2010s, a new frontier loomed: automation. Peterbilt unveiled self-driving concepts guided by radar and AI. Mack tested platooning systems linking convoys by digital tether. Silicon Valley entered the race, promising disruption and the end of human error. But drivers, the lifeblood of both brands, saw their erasure. The heroes who built the legend were being written out of the story. Inside boardrooms, optimism clashed with unease. Could icons of steel survive in a world ruled by code? Could loyalty endure when trucks no longer needed drivers? Mack and Peterbilt, once rivals in might, now faced the same truth. The future belonged not to the strongest or most beautiful, but to the smartest. As the highways turned digital, the war for dominance entered a realm no engine could conquer. A realm of data, automation, and invisible hands pulling the strings. The giants had evolved, but at a cost few foresaw: the loss of soul in pursuit of perfection. And in the glow of dashboards and silent sensors, the echoes of betrayal whispered louder than ever. Scandals in the shadows. Lawsuits, leaks, and lost deals. Beneath the polished chrome and roaring engines of America's highways, another war raged. One not fought in sunlight, but in the shadowed corners of boardrooms, courtrooms, and whispered backroom deals. For Mack and Peterbilt, the battle for dominance had never been fought solely on the asphalt. Behind every contract signed, every innovation unveiled, and every boastful advertisement, there pulsed a darker rhythm, one of lawsuits, betrayals, and corporate intrigue that threatened to unravel the very empires built on pride and steel. For Mack, the troubles began as whispers, murmurs of cost manipulation, labor disputes, and union betrayals that stained the brand's image of unbreakable loyalty. In the early 2000s, after its acquisition by Volvo, rumors circulated of unethical outsourcing, with insiders alleging that key components once proudly made in Allentown were now being quietly produced overseas under questionable labor conditions. Union leaders cried foul, accusing corporate executives of deception and betrayal, igniting strikes that froze production lines and sent shockwaves through the trucking world. The Bulldog's bark, once a symbol of American resilience, now echoed with accusations of corporate greed and betrayal of heritage. Then came the lawsuits. Mack faced claims from dealers alleging unfair distribution practices and price manipulation favoring select fleets. One high-profile case dragged into federal court, exposing internal memos that hinted at secret incentives, manipulated contracts, and promises broken in the name of market control. Though settlements came with no admission of guilt, the damage to Mack's image was undeniable, the proud symbol of toughness now burdened with the scent of corporate cunning. Across the battlefield, Peterbilt found its own shadows growing longer. Beneath the gleam of its chrome and the pride of its red oval, the company faced allegations that its parent, Packcar, engaged in anti-competitive behavior, collusion with parts suppliers, secret price-fixing agreements, and questionable partnerships that quietly manipulated markets. European regulators launched investigations, dragging Packcar into billion-dollar fines overseas and forcing Peterbilt into the same web of scrutiny. While the brand denied direct involvement, headlines blared across trucking magazines. Peterbilt's parent under fire for global price scandal. The red oval, once a symbol of pride, now carried the burden of suspicion. Leaks soon deepened the wounds. Former engineers, speaking anonymously, revealed internal tensions, claims that safety warnings had been ignored in the pursuit of profit, that design flaws were buried beneath marketing gloss, and that corporate directives often clashed with the engineers' pleas for caution. Documents surfaced hinting at canceled safety recalls, delayed emissions updates, and rushed product launches designed to outpace rivals rather than protect customers. Whistleblowers painted a portrait of ambition crossing into arrogance, of executives prioritizing quarterly returns over long-term trust. As competition intensified, so did desperation. Both brands found themselves accused of dealer manipulation, secretly favoring major fleets with discounts that crippled small independents. Independent dealers, once loyal soldiers, began to defect, filing suits claiming breach of trust and corporate bullying. Some alleged that executives leaked confidential bidding information, undercutting partners to secure high-profile contracts with government agencies and logistics giants. The courtroom became the new battlefield, where victory meant survival and settlements masked shame. The emissions wars added yet another scar. In the rush to meet tightening EPA standards, engineers pushed engines to their limits, and customers soon complained of failures, malfunctions, and costly repairs. Class action suits emerged, accusing both Mack and Peterbilt of hiding defects, downplaying reliability issues, and forcing costly maintenance onto unsuspecting operators. Each case settled quietly, but each headline chipped away at legends once built on trust and toughness. By the 2000s, the shadow scandals had coalesced into a single truth. The age of invincibility was over. No longer could either brand claim purity in a world dominated by lawyers, regulators, and leaks. The giants that once battled on highways now waged war in spreadsheets and subpoenas, their reputations bartered for market share and profit margins. And yet, amid the chaos, both endured. Mack's unions struck new deals, Peterbilt's parent paid its fines, and the machines rolled on, silent witnesses to the storms that battered their makers. But behind every polished hood and painted logo, the ghosts of lawsuits, leaks, and lost deals lingered. Reminders that even titans forged in iron and pride could bleed when ambition outpaced honor. In the end, the scandals did not destroy them, but they left scars too deep to hide. Scars etched not in steel, but in memory, in trust betrayed, in promises broken beneath the roar of engines that no longer sounded as proud. Survival of the fiercest, the global trucking war. By the dawn of the 21st century, the battlefield had outgrown America's highways. The war for dominance had spilled beyond the Rockies, beyond the Midwest factories and Southern assembly lines, into continents where new empires rose. Europe's precision machines, Asia's relentless efficiency, and the steel giants of emerging markets. For Mack and Peterbilt, survival now demanded more than heritage or horsepower. The fight was no longer about pride alone. It was a global war of economics, alliances, and technological supremacy, where only the fiercest would endure. For Mack Trucks, now under the iron banner of Volvo Group, the new century brought both strength and submission. The Bulldog, once America's lone warrior, now marched as part of a Scandinavian army, sharing platforms, engines, and strategy with Swedish siblings. In Europe, Volvo's reach opened doors Mack could never pry alone: access to advanced emission systems, shared R&D, and footholds in emerging markets hungry for heavy-duty reliability. Yet the cost of survival was steep. Critics whispered that Mack's soul was fading, that the Bulldog had become a badge on foreign steel. Its identity, once roaring with American grit, now echoed in conference rooms half a world away. Peterbilt, meanwhile, faced a different crucible under Packcar, its corporate overlord with global ambitions stretching across oceans. Through DAF in Europe and Leyland in the UK, Packard wove a sprawling empire of shared technology and unified logistics. Peterbilt's red oval now gleamed in new markets: Australia, the Middle East, parts of Asia, symbols of American prestige carried abroad. Yet, with global reach came global peril. Rivals like Mercedes-Benz Trucks, MAN, Scania, and Isuzu wielded vast resources, advanced automation, and state-backed backing that dwarfed even the fiercest American pride. The war was no longer fought with chrome and slogans, but with data, efficiency, and supply chain mastery. The battlefield grew ruthless. In Latin America, Volkswagen's MAN dominated fleets with lower costs and flexible designs. In Asia, Hino and UD trucks offered tailored models for dense urban logistics. China unleashed a new wave of contenders: FIW, Sinotruk, Dongfeng, armed with government funding and ambition that stretched beyond borders. These rising giants eyed global export markets with relentless hunger. Their trucks cheaper, their supply chains untouchable. American legends, once kings of the road, now found themselves outflanked by economies of scale and foreign state power. Desperation bred innovation. Mack doubled down on heavy-duty strength, branding itself as the champion of vocational work: construction, mining, refuse, niches too brutal for delicate rivals. Peterbilt sharpened its focus on premium long-haul, fusing luxury, technology, and efficiency into rolling palaces for modern fleets. Yet both faced the same relentless truth: patriotism no longer guaranteed purchase orders. Global fleets demanded numbers, fuel savings, uptime metrics, environmental compliance, not nostalgia. Then came the Green War, the era of emissions, electrification, and environmental mandates. Europe and California led the charge, forcing all contenders into a new arms race. Volvo's global resources allowed Mack to deploy cleaner engines and hybrid prototypes, while Packard poured billions into electric and hydrogen ventures with Toyota and Aurora. But new rivals stormed the gates: Tesla Semi, Nikola, BYD, and Hyliion, startups promising silent power and zero-emission glory. Legacy brands faced a haunting question: could old warhorses gallop in a world that demanded silence? The COVID-19 pandemic delivered another blow. Supply chains fractured, chip shortages crippled production, and freight demand swung wildly. Global alliances became lifelines. Factories in Belgium, Brazil, and Bangkok fed American assembly lines starving for parts. For the first time, even titans realized their dependence on a fragile web of global trade. By the 2020s, the war had transformed into a chessboard of survival. Strategic partnerships replaced rivalries. Mack leaned deeper into Volvo's global muscle, while Peterbilt embraced Packard's European R&D to keep pace. The lines between nations blurred: engines designed in Eindhoven, cabins assembled in Denton, software written in Bangalore. Globalization was no longer optional, it was oxygen. And yet, beneath the polished reports and smiling press releases, unease simmered. Could legends born of American freedom survive in a world dictated by emissions laws, digital algorithms, and foreign boardrooms? Could the Bulldog and the Red Oval still roar in a battlefield ruled by quiet efficiency? The global trucking war raged on, fought not with bullets, but with innovation, acquisitions, and alliances. And in this unforgiving arena, one truth remained eternal. In the race for survival, heritage meant little, and only the fiercest endured. Titans on the edge. Pride, perseverance, and the cost of glory. In the twilight of the modern age, the roar of diesel no longer echoed as it once did, replaced by whispers of circuits, whispers of conscience, whispers of change. Yet, deep within the veins of America's highways, two ancient titans still moved, slower perhaps, but unbroken. Mack and Peterbilt, forged in the fires of ambition and tempered by a century of struggle, now stood upon the narrow edge between memory and oblivion, carrying the weight of their legacies like armor and chain alike. For Mack trucks, the decades of reinvention had carved scars across its iron hide. Once the proud emblem of American endurance, it now bore the insignia of a global power, its fate entwined with the strategies of Volvo Group. In boardrooms far from Allentown, decisions shaped its destiny. Investments in electric fleets, autonomous platoons, and digital integration promised renewal. Yet each innovation carried a quiet grief. For every new algorithm, a mechanic's intuition was lost. For every silent motor, an echo of the Bulldog's growl faded into memory. Pride endured, but it had grown solemn, less a banner, more a vow whispered through clenched steel. Peterbilt, too, stood at a crossroads. Beneath the gleaming red oval, the soul of the independent truckers still burned, battered by policy, cornered by corporations, yet unyielding. The open road that once promised freedom now stretched beneath surveillance, regulation, and cold efficiency. The driver's seat, once a throne of rebellion, had become a cockpit of compliance, its freedom fenced by algorithms and emissions laws. And still, Peterbilt's disciples refused surrender. They polished chrome with reverence, tuned engines with devotion, and carried the faith that somewhere beyond the next horizon, the old glory might still be found. But the cost of survival had been steep. Across shuttered plants and faded dealerships lay the ghosts of battles lost, bankruptcies averted by mergers, traditions traded for relevance, independence exchanged for endurance. Both titans had bled, their victories purchased in layoffs, compromises, and the slow erosion of the ideals that once defined them. They had outlasted rivals, White, Diamond Rio, Autocar's glory days, International's fall from grace. Yet each conquest left behind the uneasy truth. Survival demanded sacrifice, and even the mightiest must kneel before time. The world they once ruled had changed beyond recognition. Fleets now answered to data, not instinct. Freight moved by algorithmic decree, not human judgment. Electric rigs hummed through corridors of commerce once thundered by diesel giants, and the men who once sang ballads of the highway now whispered memories of freedom into the static of forgotten CB channels. In this new world, glory carried a price that could no longer be paid in horsepower alone. Yet still, they endured. For beneath the corporate logos and polished press releases, a deeper power stirred, the unbreakable will that had built them from nothing. In every Mack still hauling refuse through city streets, in every Peterbilt cresting a midnight ridge with 1,000 miles to go, there burned the same flame that once forged an empire of wheels. The world might forget their names, might bury them beneath layers of progress and policy, but the spirit of the road, the courage to build, to break, to rise again, would never die. For Mack, pride had become endurance, the silent strength of a warrior too stubborn to yield. For Peterbilt, perseverance had become identity, a chrome-plated rebellion against extinction. Together, they carried the banner of a vanishing age, proof that even as the world turned digital, steel and soul still mattered. And so, on the edge of history, the Titans remained, battered, humbled, but unbowed. They had learned the cruel arithmetic of survival, that glory demands tribute, that innovation devours tradition, that every mile forward costs a piece of what once was. Yet they also knew the truth no algorithm could erase, that legends are not measured in profit or policy, but in the stories left upon the road. For in every mile of asphalt stretching across the American heartland, in every echo of engines long silenced, their legacy endures, not as corporations, but as symbols of the relentless human spirit, forever chasing the horizon, forever paying the cost of glory.